This is a brief summary of the chapter 8 called The Fall. This is a pretty straightforward chapter. There's a lot of nuance to it, but in the essence, it's about the intersection between Grant Hadwin and the Golden Spruce. So it begins with a quote from William Blake in the Proverbs of Hell. The quote is, "A fool sees not the same tree that a wise man sees." Well, this is a pretty poignant quote because the chapter picks up Hadwin's story where he is nearing the end of his rope with the forest industry. Now, mind you, Grant Hadwin's been largely unemployed. He's gone on a couple, stranger trips, including one to Washington, D.C. in the previous chapter. But he, in his letter writing campaign, has not worked out very well and has not affected very much change. Well, at this point, he relocates further north to Yellowknife, which is up in the Yukon, just north of British Columbia. And he, we're not real sure. People aren't real sure what his purpose for being up there. He was exercising, and he invites his friend Cora, who he had been hanging out with, a woman he had been hanging out with. He invites her to come visit. And in the chapter, the author, Cora herself actually describes these really cold swims that Grant is taking. I mean, the Yukon River, it's early winter up there. The Yukon River is largely frozen over except for the parts where the water's flowing a little bit fast. And Grant Hadwin is going out there and then diving into the water and staying in the water for 15 minutes. This is definitely hypothermia territory here. And then getting out and coming back to the car and telling Cora that he's training for something, that he won't be around next year. So she knew that he had something planned, but he wasn't telling her what it was. And she was only going to go up there for 2 weeks. She ended up staying for 6 because she was concerned for Grant Hadwin. And when it was time for her to return, she was nervous that Grant Hadwin was going to kill her because of the way he'd been talking. For example, he told Cora not to call her sisters and tell her that she was coming home, but rather that they would surprise them. So little things like that made her think that maybe Hadwin had some strange intentions. And her sister actually did call her and tell her about a dream she had of a frog being crushed. Now, Cora is a Native American, and the frog was the clan that she was in. So in the dream, the frog was crushed by a car, and she was basically warning Cora not to go for any long rides. Well, Cora ignored that advice. Her and Grant Hadwin left. They drove, I think it was like 6 hours from, maybe 7 hours from Yellowknife back to Cora's home in British Columbia. Now, at this time of the year, it's dark most of the time, so the roads are dark. There's big animals like bear and moose, a lot of things you can hit. And the stretches are really desolate. That's hard to describe it's hard to relay that if you haven't been to these areas. But I can tell you from experience, you can drive for a long time, sometimes 3 or 4 hours. You're not going to see a gas station. You might see a couple houses or cabins, along the way, but they're not going to be established businesses. It's kind of woods and tundra for a long time before you get to the next sense of civilization. So anyway, Hadwin and Cora are driving, and they get into a car accident. She's not sure to this day. Cora survived the car accident. She broke both of her ankles. She had to get plates put in her feet. She walks with a walker now. Hadwin escaped with just some minor cuts, but the circumstances that led up to the accident are kind of strange. There was a 1-lane bridge. There was already a pickup truck coming across it. Grant Hadwin was driving a Honda, like a car. It's dark out, and he drove onto the bridge, and Cora said, "Hey, there's a truck coming. Don't you see the truck or whatever?" And she said at that point, Hadwin did hit the brakes. They slid sideways and got rammed into by the truck. She's not sure if he was maybe thinking he was going to kill them, or if he was drowsy from driving a lot. She's not sure. But the way he had Cora bundled up in the car, because it was cold out, it's really cold, Actually ended up saving her life. He had her wrapped up in a sleeping bag for the drive because the temperatures up there are about negative 20s, 30s, 40s sometimes. And that padding helped to save her life. And then after the accident, when you smash out windows and stuff on a car, you've lost your source of heat. So that same padding kept her safe until an ambulance could arrive and get her to a hospital. So from there, Hadwin takes a trip to Haida Gwaii. He spends some time kind of staking out the golden spruce, getting to know the tree itself. And then one night, he puts his gear. Well, when he's there, he gives away a lot of the stuff he owns. He buys a new chainsaw. He buys a couple things that he needs, some wedges and just equipment. Puts them in inflatable garbage bags. He swims across the Yaqoon River one night, and he starts the process of cutting down the golden spruce. I'm sorry. This takes maybe 6 or 7 hours. It's a huge tree. You can't just cut straight through it like you can smaller trees. There's a whole bunch of techniques you have to use, and Hadwin knew what he was doing with the saw. He was very good. So he cut this thing down. He actually left it standing, but just barely. He cut right through the heartwood and had it in a way that it was facing the river, so the first big gust of wind that came would take it down. In so doing, he spared the huge crash of the tree landing and probably would have gotten him caught right there the moment, but he was able to get back across the river and then leave Haida Gwaii and go back to British Columbia. Haida Gwaii is in British Columbia, back to the mainland. The outrage was severe. The tree fell the next day. People felt like they really lost something, everything from loggers to foresters to certainly the Haida people who had a really ancient story attached to this. Hadwin's look on it, I'll just read you this part. It said, a day later, the golden spruce came crashing down. Locally, the reaction was overwhelming, particularly within the Haida community. Quote, it was like a drive-by shooting in a small town, end quote. John Broadhead, a longtime resident of the islands, explained. People were crying. They were in shock. They felt enormous guilt for not protecting the tree better. Broadhead paused for a moment, trying to express the true impact in language someone who wasn't Haida would understand. It was as if someone had done a drive-by on the Little Prince, he said at last. According to Haida legend, the golden spruce represented a good but defiant young boy who had been transformed. Because of this, some of the Haida saw the crime not as an act of vandalism or protest, but as a kind of murder. Quote, at a certain level, it was real hurtful in the same way that New York, and referring to September 11th, was, explained a Haida elder named Diane Brown. A piece of your community was rubbed out. The people in Haida Gwaii were outraged. People were immediately calling for Hadwin to be killed. Sometimes things out there can be dealt with locally. There were people who were thinking about ways in which they might nail Hadwin to the stump of the tree or to the tree itself, nail parts of his body to the stump. Outside of Haida Gwaii, there was a lot of outrage. But those couldn't understand why he would do this. And what it came down to is Grant Hadwin felt that the forest industry had cut down, hundreds of thousands of trees in British Columbia without any regard. And then this one, they would have cut down, but it was a certain color, which Hadwin saw as more of a defect than something of value. And it was protected by a bunch of other trees so that it looked like it was in a quasi-forested environment. But the true forest around Haida Gwaii and around British Columbia had been destroyed by the forest industry in Hadwin's experience and in his view. So he thought this tree was some kind of a pet tree where people can look at it and say, oh, there's still forest here. The forest industry isn't that bad. So he did it to call attention to the larger issue of forest decimation, not to do anything to the Haida people or to cause harm to individuals so much. But of course, the net result of his actions was that a lot of harm was caused, and a lot of people were outraged, and there was a lot of issues, associated with that. Grant Hadwin was arrested, and he was released on bail because there wasn't a legal reason to keep him in jail. So he was awaiting court, and his court date was moved forward by like 2 months, which doesn't usually happen in the legal system. Even in cases, I mean, you guys, some bad things happen all the time in this world, and the justice system works that someone is going, they're charged, they're arraigned, and then they're going to have a trial. Well, they don't usually move trials forward just because people are outraged. But in this case, they did, which was pretty shocking. So the British Columbia court system moved the trial date forward a good few months. Those people were so hurt. So what that would mean is that Grant Hadwin would have to return to Haida Gwaii and face the charges. He had concerns about returning to Haida Gwaii because people there wanted to kill him. And that's about where the chapter leaves off. His court date is coming, and it says, in an editorial, the managing director of Prince Rupert's Daily News compared Hadwin's logic to that of a pro-life activist who would kill a doctor for performing abortions. By the end of January, feelings were running so high that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, under pressure to resolve the case as quickly as possible, moved Hadwin's court date ahead by more than 2 months. He was now to appear in Massachusetts in Haida Gwaii on February 18th, just 3 weeks away. Quote, "They're making it as nasty as they possibly can," Hadwin told a reporter at the time. Quote, "They'll want me over there so the natives will have a shot. It will probably be suicide to go over there real quick." And it may have been. That's how the chapter ends. And then the next chapter will pick it up from there.